Okay, so welcome to our portfolio review. We have a wonderful guest with us today. We have curator Virginia. Virginia, pronounce your last name for me because I think I don't pronounce it correctly.
It's Arce.
Arce, Virginia Arce, who is the curator at the Irvine Center for Art.
The Irvine Fine Arts Center.
Irvine Fine Arts Center in Irvine.
Irvine, California.
And Virginia, how long have you been there now?
I've been there for just over a year and a half. And then prior to that, I was curating in artist-run spaces. I've also had some experience curating in commercial galleries, university art galleries. So it's kind of run the gamut of different spaces.
Good. Well, I think that really helps to kind of segue us into the questions I'm going to ask you. You know, the reason we do these, in addition to giving artists the sort of feedback and criticism that unfortunately we're really not able to give them in the same way right now in the midst of the pandemic, is also to provide some transparency around the art world and some of the expectations, and then some of the things that artists should be considering as they are seeking representation and pursuing a studio career. So I'm just going to jump right into it. You know, when we have these sort of portfolio reviews or studio visits, you as a curator, what role do these sorts of experiences play for you when seeking out artists, like the purpose of a studio visit or to review an artist's portfolio? What role does that play in this whole process for you?
First and foremost, it's a means of establishing a relationship with an artist. One of the things that I always remind, especially artists who are emerging or who are kind of in the early stages of their careers, is that when you have a studio visit with a curator, it's almost like a kind of a courtship. And myself, and I don't think I'm particularly unique in my approach, is that I'm looking for the first studio visit is not even, you know, it's kind of a way to see if the work is interesting, if our relationship can be mutually beneficial, if that artist has, you know, a strong sense of their work and where they want it to go and what they want to develop in their own practice. And it takes several studio visits for me to feel like this is someone who I want to produce an exhibition with. This is someone who I want to collaborate with. It really is kind of a little bit of a long developing relationship that builds through the initial studio visit.
Are there specific things that you are seeking out or exploring when you make a visit or look through someone's portfolio?
I'm looking for a growth, but also consistency, and I think that those things are not, they're not mutually exclusive. One of the things that I think artists can kind of get mired in is that they want to try everything, and it's a little bit hard for them to kind of settle on not necessarily one style or one, you know, area of question, but to really kind of figure out what it is that they want their work to say. And that's kind of one of the things that I'm looking for is when I meet an artist and I go into their studio is, do they already have a sense of what they want their work to be and to do? And they might still be figuring out some of the technical issues, some of the process, but if the sense of the identity of the work is strong, it's always kind of like a gem.
I'm sure you get a lot of this just when you're talking with artists who, you know, emerging artists, which many of the people who will watch this are, but even at different points in your career, what's the best advice you could give an artist who is just started out pursuing this journey?
I think a lot of the professional practices and the professional standards are really important to develop. A strong artist statement, have that reviewed over and over and over. Don't just have, you know, your studio buddy be the one to look it over. Really kind of develop that. And it doesn't need to be lengthy. It doesn't need to be very wordy, just direct about what your work is doing, what you want it to do. Professionalism in terms of having a coherent website. Instagram isn't everything, although it is extremely helpful for young artists, but just kind of those things that really set you up to look like you're taking your practice seriously. As a curator, that is extremely, that's a huge bonus when you're working with someone who is really taking the opportunity to show their work seriously, and also is welcoming of feedback.
Yeah. And so probably the next question that we both probably get a lot is, what is the best advice you can give someone who is pursuing representation?
I think representation, kind of similar to developing a relationship with a curator, is something that takes time. Cold calls, cold emails are, I don't think they've worked for anyone for a very long time. But also, I think it's important for artists to really do their research, what their specific galleries that they're looking into, who they represent, how do they represent the artists that they're representing, are they invested in their growth, do they typically tend to show one kind of body of work from that particular artist, and those are the things that I think a lot of artists could really benefit from, is just to do their research and not just kind of go to any gallery with shiny, polished cement floors. Really trying to see who's going to look out for your development.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think, you know, it's hard, as you said. I don't think there's one way, but I do think that it is a bit of an investment and a lot of patience to, you know, to develop that network and to learn how to navigate that, and start to create kind of the pathways to lead to that end. But I think for the most part, what you've said definitely reflects that this is not for the faint of heart. That is definitely something that takes a while and a huge investment in. But I appreciate it. We're really excited to have you here and to have you share your expertise and knowledge with our artists. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.